Welcome to the CoFounders podcast. Real-life stories from startups to billion-dollar iconic brands. Conversations with industry disruptors and inspiring leaders. Brought to you in part by WeWork, the world's largest network of co-working spaces. More info at WeWork.com. And the Pro Business Channel, uploading the future. More info at ProBusinessChannel.com. Now let's join our host and guests on this episode of the CoFounders podcast.
All right, Craig Williams in the house, Rich Casanova here, and we're ready to kick off another exciting episode of what?
CoFounders podcast.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, CoFounders podcast.
All right.
Brought to you by WeWork.
Absolutely.
As the man said.
Yep, and brought to you in part by WeWork, as we mentioned. I think the world's largest collaborative workspace, about 70 markets, 6 countries around the world. It is the coolest space. It's I had folks call it the new office.
I call it the, well, I can't say that here.
Exactly.
I say the Google of Regis.
Okay, yeah, nice. And we're excited to welcome them here to Atlanta, the market, and they're obviously in other markets as we're broadcasting live, streaming around the world. And we're right here in our Pro Business Channel studios with our $1 billion Buckhead view.
Yes, even with the overcast, it's still
first rain in months.
We needed it.
Big time.
We needed it, man. We needed
so besides weather and sports, we might talk in sports here in just a moment.
Yeah, we might need to.
Yeah. So we want to welcome our guest to the show here, Nasir, with Q&L Financial. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you're a new Atlantan, from what I heard.
Yes.
Just 3 months in town.
Yes.
So far, so good?
I love it.
You going to hang out and stay with us for a while?
Forever.
Nice, good answer. Good answer. Yeah. All right. And so we were talking before the show, originally from Maryland, and just 3 months down here. And you talked to us about before we get into the financial background and this new launch, this kind of disruptor to mainstream financial platforms, or talk to us about your career prior to this, or your background. We talked about sports a minute ago, right?
Oh, yes. I was actually a former professional football player. I had the opportunity to play arena football. But before that, getting into the football space, I was a consultant for a Fortune 500 company in the IT space. And I also was a chief of staff to a delegate in the state of Maryland.
Wow.
So I worked in politics for a little bit. But my lifelong dream was to play football. A year ago, I had the opportunity to actually play overseas first, but it didn't work out. I ended up leaving corporate America and went full time into my passion of playing football, and I was signed to the Columbus Lions here in Georgia.
Dang.
So
what position?
Corner.
Okay.
Corner. So working with the Columbus Lions, it was a dream come true. The first team to actually sign me. 2 weeks before camp, they wanted to trade me. I didn't want to be traded, so they released me.
Where would you have gone?
Well,
who knows? Huh?
Who knows? And it was weird because, they signed me in September, 6-7 months before the season started. And then, hey, we need to bring these positions in and we need to bring these guys in. And long story short, I just kind of felt, because I wasn't a Georgia native at the time and I was from Maryland, that, they didn't really want me anymore.
Gotcha.
The very next day, the funny thing about the business is, you have to keep pushing. The very next day, there was a team that wanted me that I didn't sign with because I signed with the Columbus Lions. Next day, offered me a contract after a tryout.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, this being Pro Business Channel, you want to speak to the business of the big business of sports.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not asking figures, of course. But when you were signed, was there not any transaction of finances, or was there a promissory note or some kind of down payment on the contract or something?
Keys to a new car?
Something? Do you get anything out of being signed?
You don't get anything out of being signed. And, different leagues, they have different contracts for players. Sometimes you have a signing bonus where, if you sign with the team, they will give you a payment. For me, I didn't get that offer.
You needed Craig as your agent. Yeah.
Did you have an agent?
Made it happen, yeah.
I did have an agent at the time. What was unique about my situation was that I graduated 2013. I tried out, didn't get any opportunities to play for any team, and I was pretty much 2 years removed from college football. So my film was pretty much running out of time before I could present to somebody. So me actually going to tryouts was something that I funded myself as well with my agent. I pretty much branded myself to get on the team, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there.
Wow.
And there was no money involved from that. And at the time, arena, they pay roughly, maybe $200 to $500 a game. but they take care of your housing and your food.
Oh, okay.
But it was just something I knew if I got there to get some film, I can get to the next level.
Yeah, doors would open. Yeah, an opportunity.
Yes, for sure. Yep.
So speaking of doors opening, so you pivoted and talk to us about your next play.
So my next play now is financial services and taking over the financial industry by storm.
Watch out. It's the industry has been alerted. Yeah.
Yes. I'm here, to give people the truth about their finances, to talk to them about ways where they can save money and build wealth without affecting their lifestyle today or for tomorrow. I think a lot of traditional advice in the financial industry is old, it's dated, and it's just not true. Yeah, very still.
We just had a gentleman on an earlier show talking about similar play in the medical industry, and they are definitely disrupting it. You hear the guy explain it, and everybody in the studio was all on board, right? It's just you've got to be. It's like the Uber, right? You can remain stale and asleep at the wheel, and then you have someone come along with a new innovative approach to an industry that's been around ever since money.
Exactly.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Since coins were exchanged or barter was taking place. So tell us your company, but also rewind your background. Do you have mentors or where did you glean your expertise or knowledge?
I have mentors, and it's funny how it started. When I was in college, while I was playing my sophomore year, I worked with a professor who was a project management teacher, and she taught grad students, and she taught me the principles of money, how to view money, how to value it. And she always would tell me, always have multiple streams of income.
Right.
And she showed me the ways of how to invest money, how to trade money, how to, pay your bills. And that kind of gave me the start. Right. What was funny about that was I wasn't a finance major.
Right.
I was a criminal justice major.
Oh, okay.
So, I would do my class during the day, practice, and then at night I would help her in her classes. Now, as a project manager, when you're in charge of a budget or a contract, you have to manage that contract effectively. And she broke down through those strategies, this is how you do the same with your finances.
Well, if you don't pay your finances, then criminal justice comes into play.
That's true. Yeah.
Sometimes.
But it's interesting is so what's unique, I think, is you enter the marketplace with like a clean slate, right? So you don't carry over that baggage and that historic, this is the way we've always done things. Yep. And sometimes it's difficult for a large company to adapt have an entrepreneurial mindset. Right. And some of the most innovative ideas come from somebody that, it's like, I forget the story, but there was the classic example of a professor laid out a very complicated math project on the chalkboard at the time. Right. And the student in the back row wasn't paying attention, was asleep and was dazing off already. And at the end of after class wrapped, he woke up and he realized that's a homework assignment. He wrote it all down. Have you heard this story before? And he comes back, solves the whole problem. The problem had never been solved in 30 years because he didn't know that it was unsolvable, right? So, but that's kind of what you bring maybe to the table is that if you're kind of in that lane, it's hard to get, to switch gears. So now talk about the name of your brand, your company, what makes it unique.
So the name of the company is Q&L Financial. Now, the funny thing about the name of the company is that the letters, they don't stand for anything.
That was the obvious question. I searched all over your website to find that answer.
Right.
I could not find it.
Your
initials or whatever,
It doesn't stand for anything. And I remember sitting in the computer room with my grandmother, and I was like, I'm going to call the company Q&L Financial. And she looked at me. She's like, what does it mean? I was like, I just like the way it sounds.
Yeah.
And, the whole goal of Q&L Financial with the logo is the falcon as the leader. Is that, I want to bring in a new approach and take people to new heights in their financial lives. And the whole goal of the brand is to give people the information that they can take and have an impact on their life today, right now. Anything that's, too complicated or overly just complex and doesn't have anything to do with it. I want to give people stuff they can handle right now.
So simple. Didn't have to
because
have reason to it.
Well, NFL was already taken, so he went with Q&L. And so who's your ideal client that you work with?
So my ideal client, there's two of them, families and business owners, especially small business owners. I like to work with families because I believe families, they have a lot of things at stake. They were in a position where, they have kids or there may be kids coming soon, but usually between a husband and wife or having a spouse, there's a lot of things where finances from one person's background to another comes together. And you have to figure out how you manage those things together throughout both of your lifetimes. And then for small business owners, I think a lot of small business owners need help in many ways from a financial standpoint, not only with managing their business cash flows and how those operate, but also their personal finances. So a lot of times small business owners use their personal finances to leverage the business, and then some of those things get out of whack.
That's called a rut-row moment or whatever, yeah. And I imagine with your age, it seems likely that people your age would be kind of drawn to that they can share the commonality and the stories and the experience, right?
Yes.
And relate to you. That's kind of a given, right?
Yep, definitely. From my background and my age, I'm dealing with the millennials.
Right.
The one thing about millennials, most millennials think they know everything.
Finally, a millennial that says that out loud. Yeah.
We think we know everything, and we think we can just do it ourselves. And a lot of times when I'm approaching millennials, is I understand what we went through and what our parents went through, and we want to do things differently. But thinking we can do it ourselves is one of the biggest mistakes we're making right now.
We need to record that one because I got a couple of millennials.
I think we just did. Well, yeah,
at the house who may not agree, but when they step back, they will.
Yeah. Well, especially when they hear it from someone that
up here,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. That appears to be obvious, then, yeah. So what's your business model, if you will, right?
Yeah. So my business model is very unique. In the financial service industry, the basic model, the main model is, you reach out to someone, you set time to meet with them in person, and you continue to follow up in person and do things on set schedules. My approach is to do things virtually as well as leveraging face-to-face meetings. I believe at this day and time, we have more accessibility to our phones and computers, and we have capabilities that we never had before. Mm-hmm. So seeing me in person or being able to shoot you a webinar, shoot you a video with information that fits what you're currently going through to give you a visual as well as the information is more effective nowadays because people have busy lives.
Right, yeah.
Versus, hey, come meet me in the office, bring all these papers and do this and do no.
Or over the classic kitchen table,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. People don't have a kitchen table. Yeah.
Right. So are you an accountant?
No.
Okay.
Not an accountant.
Okay.
My focus is financial planning. We do that through many different ways. We have retirement planning. I do college planning, estate planning, as well as business structuring planning. And that's a way where business owners can learn about using different corporate structures to make advantage of their opportunities.
So you're not captive,
No.
Yeah, gotcha.
No, I'm independent, and pretty much, I work on a schedule where I can meet any client's needs depending on what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So there's certain clients that I don't work with because of they may think I'm an accountant. They may think, hey, can you fix my taxes?
Right.
I don't do those two things.
And we don't cook your books either.
Yeah, because
right.
financial is broad.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but speaking of that, do you have some partnerships that you're looking to seek out to align yourself with, so make it a well-rounded?
Yes, definitely. Some of the partnerships I know I'm looking into is working with different organizations, especially nonprofits that have financial literacy programs for schools. They even give different programs to children so they can learn basics about finances. And then as it relates to other organizations, different companies. One company I'm actually looking at is the NFL at some point to help those guys out. I also have a program now for college planning to help people save on their college tuition for the children that they want to send to school. So
I think that's a home run for you there in that specific space because you've gone through the college experience and you've probably learned some lessons on how you funded it. But if you were to rewind, how you could better leverage. And so for switch gears back to business. So are you looking at how they manage and how they structure? Because that's a big question. A lot of businesses when they start, especially again back to the startup space. All these startups like at WeWork and other incubator spaces, is that they know their widget and they're excited about their app that they're developing or whatever they're bringing to the marketplace. But do they set up an LLC? Do they set up a sole proprietor? Do they need trademarks or all that stuff? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. For those companies that are actually in the startup phases, how you designate yourself from an LLC to a C Corp to trademarking is very important. I think, I think the focus, once we get past that is now seeing, okay, within this corporate structure, are there any other entities that we can create to help leverage other opportunities?
Right.
Where companies, the biggest thing that companies face outside of managing day-to-day operations is taxes at some point. And corporate structures such as LLCs and C Corps, they have different tax benefits, but other structures companies not aware of, such as foundations and other private partnerships or trust accounts they can set up, can alleviate some of those issues that they're going to face as they get bigger.
Kind of like the offshore account that Craig has or whatever. Yeah.
And I need to get on shore with it.
I know, right? Yeah. So on your notes here, there's this mention of guaranteed income.
Yep.
So that sounds pretty enticing. Sell me on that or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So
what does that mean?
The guaranteed income approach.
It's a job.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So the concept is mainly for those who are looking to retire or at some point in time, changing their workload, whether they're running a business or traveling the world, is to have a stream of income that they can have for the rest of their life, guaranteed to take care of their expenses and then some. I like to think of it as most people would have a pension. They're fortunate because they have a guaranteed paycheck. But then I tell those pensioners, well, where's your paycheck? Because every day is Saturday when you retire. Mm-hmm. And so depending on the person's circumstances, a client that comes to me, I ask them simple questions. What do you want your life to look like 30 years from now? How are you going to maintain a lifestyle you have today, or how do you want to enhance it? Because nobody wants to live in a box 30 years from now. And what I do is, depending on what they already have in place or whatever financial products they're currently using, we basically look at those products and align those with those goals and see, do they reach the goals that they want to have when they get older? And if they don't, we come up with a strategy that does. And the products that I like to use, I specialize in, are designed to provide guaranteed income no matter what. And honestly, it's almost like your own private bank that nobody can get access to but you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's virtual. Sounds like virtual currency. Something we need on the new currency show we heard.
That's where we bank. We bank at the private bank of Buckhead. A little plug for those guys. Yeah. You mentioned the play check. I love that. Is that trademarked, or do we need to get that right away? Or what?
No, that's not trademarked. That's actually something I learned I think it was a couple months ago. I was at a conference. And
that's a great premise. You can kind of vision that. That's like your coffee vacation, right? Yeah,
most definitely.
And you mentioned we don't want to live in a box. We all end up in a box, right? But we don't want to live there right now, right?
No, I don't. From the way things moving today with the job markets and automation coming to the marketplace, jobs may be here or they may not. But the thing is that for most people, we're probably going to live in a retirement state longer than we've worked in our lives, and we have to have the income to support that. And we're living longer.
That's a new phenomenon. I mean, we talked about just the way you phrase that is we are living longer, right? But I never thought about that you're going to be in retirement longer than your work life, which was the opposite not too many a generation ago. So we got a few more minutes here left, and I want to remind our listeners you're listening to the CoFounders podcast here on the Pro Business Channel in our Buckhead studios with our $1 billion view. Speaking of money, right? Exactly. It's probably more than $1 billion, but we did the math, and there's no $1 million buildings out there, So I know you're just 3 months into this as a startup. That's why you're on the CoFounders podcast, right? Speaking of co-founders, are you looking to bring some other people in, build your team? And we do an event you may or may not be familiar with over at WeWork called the Co-Founders Matchup. We'll have in every other month. So who's on your short list to round out your pro team here?
I think
on the Q&L team,
Yeah, the Q&L team, I think what I would like to add is a player, as I like to call it, that can come on board and actually be a training specialist with me. Okay. I have certain information that I can give to people, and when it comes to training or to providing information to either people that we bring on board to work with us or to potential clients, I believe that I can have someone else do that better than me.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that depending on the situation of the client, I may miss or go over their head. So me bringing someone that can be a trainer, especially one that can use different models such as visual components. I think the way people are using YouTube nowadays and Facebook with different cartoons and different virtual reality things that's the person I'm looking for now.
Yeah, because speaking of videos on your site, it was kind of innovative the way it's not traditional videos.
Right.
You're just out there on the street just talking numbers or whatever, and finance.
Exactly. So that's the type of player I'm looking for to duplicate that and kind of, drive how do you call it, like almost a movie-like feel to it, or a play, scenes where with our approach, we don't want to give you the same boring, dull information everybody else gives it to you. We want to give you the visual, something funny, make you laugh. I mean, videos nowadays go viral just for funny stuff.
Memorable,
Yeah, and they're very memorable.
And then you're going to build out your street team here, right? Yeah. So what's next?
Well, I think what's next is, really getting out here and educating people, doing more of a co-partnering event, partnering with different organizations to kind of bring in a certain market of people that they have. I want people to know that, having access to financial planning is very inexpensive. A lot of times when I tell someone I'm a financial advisor, they think, well, I don't have enough or I can't afford you.
Yeah, right.
And before we even get to talking about, what you have or how my conversation structure works, let's have a sit down and have a conversation. Right. So for me now, I want to get out here and get that stigma away to let people know that you can talk and we can have a conversation about what you're going through.
It's funny. Some people will say that, like, I don't have the money to put aside for finance or investment, but their car payment is more than their rent, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or they're spending on all kinds of other stuff besides them, or long term. Well, they're not necessarily always thinking long term.
Yeah, and it's not even if it's long term. If like I said, each client is different. The way I see it is we have a circle of wealth, and within that circle of wealth, we have what we call our lifestyle and our accumulated money and our transferred money. Now, most people want to accumulate more money and have a great lifestyle, but they fail to realize that they're transferring money unknowingly, unnecessarily. And this is the area that I focus on the most, because nobody wants to hear, hey, you need to save more, invest this, but cut back on your lifestyle.
Right.
Most people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, what if I can help you save, continue to earn great return on your money without affecting your lifestyle, but show you where you're throwing money away unknowingly, unnecessarily. Add that to your accumulated money and your lifestyle today. So whether it's today or for next year or for later down the line, we're doing something now to affect that.
The ripple effect of that, what you set in motion. And I don't know if this makes sense. I'm thinking, what about like if you hosted a financial hackathon, right? To kind of hack the old traditional principles.
Right.
Right? Yes or yes?
Yes, that would be awesome. I like that idea.
Craig will make that happen.
Well, I don't know. When you're dealing with principles, and fundamentals, as long as you stick with those, anything's possible. So, that'd
definitely
be exciting. Sure would.
So, Craig, your closing thoughts here?
None at all. I'm still thinking. He got me stuck on that Q&L. I'm still trying to figure out what I know.
I was trying to come a quarterback, but you were the corner.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. Like
quality's always worn out. But
I'm your quarterback of your next life. I don't know. It's just,
but if it rolls off his tongue, it rolls off his tongue. So Q&L, it's a great grandmother story. I love that.
Yeah. That was a great story. But have you thought about like putting some words behind those letters? Quality. Anyone? Hello?
No. That's just it.
It's kind of tough.
Q&L.
Yeah.
Q&L Financial.
It keeps people guessing.
It sounds prestigious.
Well, there's a lot of brands like NCR. People don't know what that used to stand for.
Yeah.
Right? They just know it. Or PBC.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One day, people we will just be known as like NBC, PBC. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, Nasir, what's a good way for people to reach out to you?
Well, they can visit me on my website, QNLfinancial.com. They can also follow me on Facebook, QNL Financial. On the website, you have my office number. You can call me. You can text me. So I'm accessible. That's another thing I want people to be able to feel comfortable. If you feel like texting me, just send me a text.
Right.
And then my email is Nasir, so NASIR, @QNLfinancial.com. So.
All right. And great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Look forward to what's in the future for you and your business ventures. And we'll see you next time on another episode of
CoFounders Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the CoFounders Podcast, brought to you in part by WeWork, the world's largest network of